So that was a pretty dramatic countdown. Um, Welcome to Code Talk, and tonight's topic is about how do men avoid compromising their values. So, for those of you that were over on the Uncle Junior Network and watching, let's discuss this topic on Elevated Dialogue, which is every Wednesday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Welcome over to Code Talk for the expanded conversation. Um, let's see. Last week we had a really good chat. I ran my mouth about an hour and a half. And normally this is just where I come and download like basically my thoughts of what a man should do, and in order to preserve his integrity, his morals, and not put himself in a defensive position where he's making unhealthy compromises, because life is about compromising in general. We all have to work with each other and be of service to each other. So I think of compromise from a healthy aspect of it versus something negative. You know what I'm saying? So I don't look at it all in a negative way. I choose not to, because we can dwell on the we can dwell on the negative outcomes all we want, but if we're focused on solving problems and providing solutions, then we have to assume that everybody's here to solve the problem. So if we're here to assume that everybody's here to solve the problem, they're not bringing conflict. They're not bringing unhealthy views just so they can make the conversation about them. Hey, shout out to Antoine for coming over. Hey, everybody that's showing up, man, appreciate you for coming by. You can hit the like button, and hey, also the super chat is active, so you can show monetary support. Yeah, that little dollar figure thing on there, the YouTube channel is monetized. Put some bread up. You know what I'm saying? Show me, give me my flowers while I'm still here. I don't want to wait till I'm in the casket and I can't see. I'm just saying, click the dollar sign. But in terms of like compromising your morals, your principles, we live in a time where that's really like your equity in the world. Like your name matters. If you are a person that is in business for self, where your name and credibility hinge on how you are, how your reputation is regarded, then you have to consider, what you're compromising. You gotta have a set of non-negotiables. You have to have the boundary where you're there to protect yourself, and people can either respect it or they can exit. That's why you gotta have code. That's why you gotta have code. You see it, like this is what's important. Not just this book, but this is my personal book of affirmations of what I think works, my own self-help strategies, because you gotta have something that you can easily reference, easily integrate, and then apply it very quickly so you can move forward in the process that it is life. Life is algebra. It's math. All you're doing is solving for x's and y's. X's and y's. X being whatever value you want to be, or an X relationship. The Y is always Y. You know what I'm saying? Well, why does this occur? What can I do to mitigate my proximity to failure? And what leads to success? I think you gotta have a concise understanding of what your end goal is. That way you don't unintentionally put yourself in negative situations that make you defensive, that put you in a situation where you compromise your integrity, or you are challenged in a way that you don't have the resource to respond. So for everybody just entering the conversation, I see the views going up. Do me the favor and go ahead and click the like button. I'm going to go ahead and like my own, my own joint. I'm gonna go ahead and inflate it, and I'm gonna drop some links in the chat, and we're gonna have just a good discussion about, how far are we willing to go, before our behavior compromises our integrity, puts us in a place where we can't recover from, because we all have something that's too far. You can't come back from everything. And I think, generally speaking, the people that follow this podcast and know my platform, that are like-minded individuals, we all know that there are some situations where you just know that it doesn't matter what the outcome is, that person is not going to get my support anymore, regardless of what it might be. And for some of us, that varies. But I think across the board, I think we all agree that the minute that we put children in negative situations, or put parents in compromising positions in how they raise their children, then we got to question, what is the intent that we're trying to accomplish, and if accomplishing that intent requires you compromising your moral code, your principles, it better be an ultimate sacrifice type of situation. And even then, we got to evaluate that from moment to moment, because even though all things are true, all understandings are not equal, and nobody owes you understanding. So the decision that you get ready to make, you can't necessarily paint your justification to somebody else's level of understanding. And that's the barrier in all of this, is that the more complex you make your life, the more likely you're going to be in a situation where you have to compromise who you are for survival purposes. But if you're going to put yourself in a situation where you have to risk life, limb, or injury to prove your point, make sure it's worth standing on. Because a lot of people stand on nothing and they die for nothing. A lot of people put other people in compromising positions based off of subjective emotions and a lack of understanding of what the overall intent is. Can't see the bigger picture. You have to give those folks grace, and sometimes you give people grace by distance. The more distance you put in between you and those that put you in a defensive position, the less likely you are to be put in a compromising position. In last week's podcast, we talked about responsible men, and what are the behaviors of responsible men? What are the benefits of having responsible men around? And the short answer is that you don't have to make every decision, but responsible men being around also, they could be in a capacity of trust. They can be a trusted agent. They can be a confidant, and they could be a mentor, because they could be in a position where they have experience to put you in a situation where you have to think more objectively about the outcome. You have to think about the worst case scenario, and you always have to consider your morals and principles. The higher you go, the higher you go in life, the different, the more different the atmospheres become, and the more flexible you have to be. And I think that when you think about what responsible men endeavor to do and become, and you pair that with the work that it takes to refine the boundaries that will keep you from being in defensive positions that will subsequently lead to you potentially compromising your morals, your principles, your personal code. And we've seen various degrees of what the outcome is from, entertainers, the athletes, the people that we may have worked with, co-workers that were willing to do something that you weren't to just get promoted. Some people don't have any allegiance to, like how people see them, and that's cool too, because I think all of us have that to some degree. Yeah, I don't generally care about anyone's approval of of how I conduct myself or anything like that, because part of how I conduct myself is tied to my larger purpose. When you have a purpose, it's usually something that you're passionate about. You're not passively um, excited about a purpose. It's something that is just in you. It's gonna happen. It's gonna come out. You can't turn it down. If something causes you to compromise what you're passionate about, you're probably in a bad situation. You're probably in a situation uh, that's already overdue. You're welcome to leave in some cases. And I think sometimes that when you get in conflict with your pride and you're focused on being right at a dangerous level, the need to be right becomes very, very. I guess it becomes the elephant in the room. Because how far is the other person willing to go to be right? How far is the other person willing to go to make their point? And is the desire to make the point a self-serving one, or is it something that other people can benefit from? Does it have coaching value? Does it have a reflective quality? When you look back on it, can you use it as an introspective moment to improve yourself? I think responsible men definitely understand the importance of reading the room and still looking out for others, because you may be the other. I think men avoid compromising their values by leading, because you have to have your values displayed openly so you can be held accountable to them, so you can hold yourself accountable, so you can make deliberate intent to improve. I think when you take that approach and you open yourself up to a level of criticism for whatever it is that you're talking about, you allow it to become feedback. If you are defensive and unable to accept or recognize healthy criticism, then it's going to make you defensive. And then when you get defensive, you start doing things that just don't amount to anything of value. You start arguing with the wrong people, and that's a direct violation of accountable masculinity rule number 2. We don't argue. So everything comes back to having an integrated format to figure out what's the best right answer, because everybody has a version of what's right. Everybody can operate off of perception. Everybody's allowed to act the way that they want, and accept whatever comes with it. The acceptance piece is where you have to hold yourself accountable for whatever your equity is in the situation, and within that, find a better approach. The compromise of anyone's character should be the furthest thing on the discussion table if it's about something healthy. Let me say that again. Compromising your values should be the furthest thing from discussion if the outcome and the goal is a healthy one in mind. Some things can start off good, and I can understand they can change. But just like a situation change, you have to have some resolve, some resiliency to decide if you want to change with it or not. Every situation isn't for everybody all the time. So, with that being said, make sure that if you go at it alone, that you can tote your own weight. If you go at it with part of the resource, not enough resource, you're going to have to do a lot more negotiate. In the space of negotiation, compromise always exists because that's what it is. But the minute that you have to sacrifice in an unhealthy way, then you might be somewhere along the lines of crossing your moral code. So these feelings, these anxieties, these uncertainties, these feelings of a level of insecurity, they are rooted to something that's fear-based. And most times when we are compromised, we hear it in a negative tone. It takes us down the rabbit hole. When we hear negotiate, we hear that conversation from a point of leverage. You know, like when we enter negotiations, we both have something to offer. We both have something to exchange. But in compromise, you have to accept some things. Acceptance is always the other language of what a compromise is. In negotiation, you have equity. And a compromise, you probably don't have as much. You have more of a personal equity. I think it's more about empathy, depending on what the nature of the compromise is. But when it comes down to negotiation, business tone, and how you go about setting your boundaries and what you expect, creating expectation management, I think once those parts are solidified, the only time you make compromise is when you have to adjust from the original plan. When some changes, we all got to compromise. We have to come to a point of acceptance, and we have to adjust. The key is not getting in a situation where you lack the ability to adapt. You lack the ability to adapt, you're going to have a tough time making the compromises that it takes to push the original agenda forward from a different path. We're on plan B now, or plan C, or whatever plan it is. If the goal is to get to point J together, we have to keep doing what it takes to get to point J. And if we put a threshold on how many times we're going to try it to the point where we can't do it, then we just got to say, hey, man, we tried. Maybe we need more. Maybe it's time to get more resource. Maybe we need to go back to the drawing board, because we all take chances and we all know the importance of teamwork. And sometimes you just can't win them all. Being willing to compromise, or should a man compromise? I think in a lot of cases, no. Some things are just non-negotiable, like I said before. Sometimes taking an L is non-negotiable. Sometimes you have to accept that you can lose. And you have to compromise within yourself to accept that this is your lowest point. You've made enough compromises. Now it's time to make sacrifices. When you think about compromise in the context of always having to take less than in order to make something happen, eventually compromise leads to sacrifice. Compromise comes before sacrifice, even in the dictionary. We have to be okay with the idea that you're only going to compromise so much before you either sacrifice for yourself or you sacrifice someone else. You sacrifice a relationship, you might sacrifice a financial move, you might have to sacrifice friendships, you might have to sacrifice opportunity. And because eventually you're gonna be trading things at a different cost. At the compromise level, a negotiation, you're gonna have, different types of goals that help people meet their immediate objectives. Like, there's a level of partnership with employees to a job. They trade services, trade labor for pay till the terms don't fit the relationship anymore. Then it's on the employee to decide if they want to compromise and try to negotiate better pay or better resources, or however that looks in that situation. And if they don't get what they want, what are they prepared to sacrifice to prove a point? And that's when you start getting strikes, picketing. But there's layers of control before it gets to that. When you have like labor unions, some sort of proxy capacity to let somebody else deal with the negotiation, to make everybody else happy, to make everybody else get a chance to compromise. Kind of like the NFL Players Association, or things of that nature. There's always some level of compromise that takes place because everybody has to have something. Everybody's got to feel like they're getting the best version of the deal because everybody's making a deal. Shout out to Uncle Junior. You say you're gonna come on in a little bit. Hope you're running my mouth. I appreciate you coming in and hitting the like button. To everybody else that's just jumping in, we're talking about should a man compromise who he is for anyone or anything? I'm gonna go ahead and put the question up on the scroll and let you guys jump in and have a chat at it. Let's see. In the meantime, I'm gonna go ahead and drop my links in the chat so you guys can go cop the book. As you see featured here over my right shoulder, next to this glowing ball, try to get your attention over there. We all have something to offer if you're living in a good way. Y'all do. This is my book's 5-year anniversary year. I published this thing in like October 2018, and it was the first thing I had completed in a long time that had the level of significance that I couldn't anticipate having it. A lot of people have read the book and left me the feedback that it takes to keep writing, become a better writer, and be inspirational to other people. We got a lot of experience, and we have quite a few different hot takes on the world as it is. And at any given time, we can be in full agreement, full disagreement, but the nature of why we disagree or agree is relative to our personal journeys. The key is recognizing that. And it's not a fight, and recognizing that it's not a competition. Competition is useful when it's healthy. But if you have to consider, compromising who you are, you're probably in an unhealthy competition. Yes, an unhealthy competition. And the unhealthy competition is rooted in the need to be right, being unwilling to compromise, being uncoachable, unreceptive, all of the uns. All of the uns. So, we got to be mindful of the things that we compete for, and if they put us in a situation that can question whether or not we're compromising who we are. So there's a question at the bottom. You know what I'm saying? If anybody's got something to add, feel free to jump on. Wait on Uncle Junior. He probably uh, getting some water or something. Probably in the backstage. Is he back yet? No, not yet. But I want you guys to definitely figure out what it is that you're willing to stand on and meet opposition. Because if you're going to be responsible, people are going to put you in positions where they're going to try to make you feel like you're trying to compromise yourself. And what we're not going to do is have people misread us. Can't do that. Can't risk it. The risk is just too high. So, like, I'm about to pull up accountable masculinity rule number 3 in a minute. I want y'all to see what I'm talking about. We're going to let it play, and we're going to have, a little bit more context to what it is that makes us go, what it is that makes us accountable, what it is that makes up a man of integrity and having a set of morals and principles that don't cause him to misrepresent himself. So let me see here. Hang on a second. All right. So I'm going to share this screen right here so you guys can check it out. All right, so this is accountable masculinity rule number 3. As you see, this is on TikTok. You guys go ahead and follow that page. Here we go. Go through it line by line, So when I was writing this, to go through it line by line, the first part when I talked about decentralized leadership was about knowing when to lead and when to follow. That's the first act of submission. You submit to what you have to be responsible for, and you have to submit to what you are unable to be responsible for. Men are fixers, and a lot of the times we take on things that are tasks that are, able to be accomplished, like possibility versus probability. And sometimes we overcommit. So when I was writing this, to go through it line by line, the first part when I talked about decentralized leadership was about knowing when to lead and when to follow. That's the first act of submission. You submit to what you have to be responsible for, and you have to submit to what. Okay, that's one page of it. And here's the other. So when I was writing this, yeah. So you guys got it right there. There's a way to approach this in a civilized manner. You gotta have something. You gotta have some kind of simple principle. It don't take much. You don't have to be complex, because everything comes back to what accountable masculinity is about. It's about being focused on self, men focusing on men, and just becoming valuable to your own community. Working on self-worth, reinforcing the dialogue, the much needed dialogue to be valuable to those around you. We all need a wolf pack. Definitely, all need a wolf pack. They help you write these laws. They help you write your personal code to yourself. They help you tap into what's important about who you are character wise, how they see you, the objective view. Compromise puts you in a position where you have to be objective, especially from a leadership perspective. You got to know your limitations. You got to know what you will and won't accept, and you got to know those boundaries based on behalf of the people that you are responsible for. Responsible men never get out of this conversation. Responsible men are the only men that matter. That is a fact. Like, nobody calls useless people. Useless people put us in compromising positions. So responsible men that understand that there's a greater goal within this community, they don't have to be reminded to stay on code. They don't have to be. They're already there. This is about getting to some degree of reasonable tone of conversation, where we can take the feelings out and have the objective dialogue that it takes to solve problems. We all have to become better problem solvers. We all have to become better negotiators of our own time, or our attachment to time, rather. Meaning that we don't control it, and it's our job to make the most of it when we have it. Well, compromising your time goes into that equation also, because when you compromise time, you compromise your passion, you compromise access to your own joys, your own interests. There's like very few outcomes where time isn't the variable, because everything is centered on it. Sometimes it's money. Some things that require money initially still require time for it to actually come to fruition. It doesn't just happen all the time just because you have money. It doesn't happen all the time just because you know somebody. Sometimes it requires, a an outside event that accelerates your progress towards your goal. Momentum. Compromises slow down momentum in a lot of cases, or it could expedite it. It just depends on where you are in your process. So if you're operating on a low frequency, compromising might slow you down. And by low frequency, being under resourced, being disagreeable, being argumentative, having nothing that you can compromise on. You're probably operating on a need to be right. And all of us that have non-negotiables have a need to be right about what that is. Everybody's need to be right is not on the same level. Not. Can't be. Because we need the disagreements, the debates, we need them when they are useful. So you put a bunch of need to be rights in the same conversation, we're going to get a lot of truths. But at some point, you got to decide which truths are applicable based on the people, based on the environment, and based on the resource. Resources make the rules. Responsible men use resources correctly. Responsible men make the compromises so that he doesn't have to sacrifice his character. If you don't compromise correctly, you're going to end up potentially sacrificing your character. So those are some of the talking points for this evening. And I just want to thank everybody that keeps showing up from week to week. Anybody that's making a purchase off the website, greatly appreciate that. As a matter of fact, I'll go ahead and share my screen. How about that? Again, go cop the book. You see it. We'll leave it up there for a second. A lot of people want to know who I am. Got a little bit of, my bio here on the mission statement. Be able to screenshot that or look at it at your leisure. Check out Valor and Victory on Shopify. As soon as you type it in, you'll see it. You can do a Google search on accountable masculinity, and you'll find any and everything that's associated with the brand, and it'll lead you right back to this website. More stuff coming, consulting. So let me drop some links in the chat. So if you're looking for a one-on-one business mindset consultation with me, you can book me. And also, guys, don't be shy. Support the platform. Yeah. And what else we got going on? Check out the shop too. I'll drop some of those links. Man, look, this t-shirt right here is for anybody that's tried to get you to compromise who you are. You man, look, you see, you got me up. Okay, I'm for YouTube's sake, I'm not gonna say what the F means, but you get to make it what it is. Yeah, you got me fucked up. We'll take the shirt out as a cheap price. Just want to get the message out there. Plus, it supports your boy. Supports your boy. The opportunity that we have in front of us by working together in a group economics construct puts us in a position where we don't have to compromise. We can work with each other and take what we already have, network, and make what we have better for everybody else. Create more efficient access to saying things that make us great. So the mindset of the man that doesn't put himself in position to compromise in unhealthy ways is that of the responsible man. A lot of what compromise entails is being subject to criticism. I wrote this earlier. I want to read it so we can capture it and understand, that a lot of people confuse compromise with sacrifice, and I don't think it's that. The more I think about it as I go. Okay. So, objectively speaking, compromise is about general flexibility and leadership. It falls underneath accountable masculinity rule number 3, decentralized leadership, knowing when to lead and when to follow. Are you receptive and coachable? Being able to articulate healthy compromise through action is the metric of showing your work and your genuine intent. Is your work done in good spirit? Is it done as a chore? Is it done in a way where you're just here so you don't get fined. Sometimes that's necessary. Sometimes you got to be able to just go in a place, shut your mouth, play the game, and get out of it what you need to get out of it so you can move on to the next thing. That's all it is. So, are you receptive and coachable? Somebody might have to tell you, hey, bro, slow down, be quiet. This ain't the time. Read the room. If you're not receptive and coachable, somebody's not going to be able to protect you. Not that you can't hold your own, but sometimes you got to be directed back into the play. You might be getting out of bounds. Once you're out of bounds, you're out of the play. So being able to articulate healthy compromise through action is the metric of showing your work and your genuine intent. So let me just put this up on the screen so you guys can see it with me. How about that? Because this is gonna come out later on some slides, probably. Yeah. Let me just open up another window. How about that? Got all these tools up here. No sense in me just reading it so you don't get a chance to see it. Opening up a Word document so I can share the screen. Yeah, man. So I want people to be able to see what I'm looking at. So we had the same picture at the same time. I hope y'all like my little lo-fi music. I hope it's not too loud on the playback. Okay, here we go. I'm about to show y'all the screen right here. We're gonna read this together. All right. So I just threw this up on a Word document real quick out of Google on Docs. Ain't even titled it yet, but I will. Matter of fact, let me do that now. You never know how fast you start typing. And then you will be naming a bunch of documents, or have to go back and name a bunch of documents that you didn't label the first time. Okay, so check this out. Objectively speaking, compromise is about general flexibility in leadership. It falls underneath accountable masculinity rule number 3. Decentralized leadership, knowing when to lead and when to follow. Are you receptive and coachable? Being able to articulate healthy compromise through action is the metric of showing your work and genuine intent. This is when we find out if you're doing it for a self-serving reason or not. Your genuine intent, like for example, it's like the people that record folks that that are homeless when they're giving them something. What was the point in doing it? Do we need to show it? To some degree, we probably do. On the other side, did the person do it with a self-serving intent? Probably did. But all things are true. So both things exist. That's why you got to make sure your intent is genuine. You have to compromise for both unhealthy and healthy outcomes. The type of choice you make determines the nature of the compromise. Is your compromise self-serving? Is your compromise a burden to others? So tonight, as far as this thought goes, this is about choice, the highlighted blue piece. You can compromise for a winning outcome, or you can compromise for a losing outcome. And when I say the choice you make determines the nature of the compromise, it's like, where were you when you made the compromise? What was the goal? What was the intent? You know, if you had something that was self-serving, it's going to be easy to see. And sometimes if your compromise is self-serving, you also have to wonder, is that compromise self-serving enough to become a burden to others? Like, do you have something that is so non-negotiable that if you stuck by, or you got in a pride ego contest, would it put you as a burden to other people? Like if you did something to jeopardize your household, the quality of life of it, and now the roles are reversed and someone has to carry you, did your decision burden the people that trusted you? That's something to think about when you start talking about compromise. Okay. This is one of the main points of why I wrote this, because the conversation was centered around what's sacrifice and what's compromise. And I say don't confuse the two. I say sacrifice is when you have an easy option and choose the hard right decision for the desired outcome. Compromise is the act of negotiating equity in a planned outcome. The difference is based on what you're doing it for. Is it to be a people pleaser or a team player? Again, the decentralized leadership concept of accountable masculinity rule number 3. So sacrifice is when you have an easy option and choose the hard right decision for the desired outcome. Meaning, like, if you want to get in shape, it's not going to happen until you change what you eat, whatever your habits are, and actually doing some physical training to make that a reality. The hard right decision is not sleeping in if you have a schedule, not being late, failure to be consistent. You got to be consistent in whatever it is that you want to do. If you want the desired outcome, there's a degree of consistency that corresponds with the outcome that you're looking for. Compromise is the act of negotiating equity in a planned outcome. You bring your resources to the table, I bring mine. This is my goal. Your goal is somewhat parallel or in sync with mine. Let's figure out what we can do. If it requires me to compromise in some area where you're more efficient than I am, then that's so be it. That's just what it is. If it's money, credit, or something to that effect, we got to go where the strength is. That's an example of compromise. The difference is based on what you're doing it for. Is it to be a people pleaser or a team player? If you're doing something to be a people pleaser, you probably got a self-serving reason associated with that. Team player, self-explanatory, willing to make the sacrifice that it takes for the team to win. Being able to think objectively about where you fit in the big picture is the mindset of a team player. A people pleaser is a singular, selfish driven mindset. Not saying that it's unnecessary or frowned upon, because some things require you to be self-driven and nobody can come and save you. Like, for instance, if you play tennis and it's singles, it just means what it is. It's just singles. Like, it's all on you and how you respond to it. Nobody can come out there and return a serve better than you can in that moment in time, because that's why you are in the arena. The person that's in the arena, they're in the arena for a reason that's higher than themselves, because that's going to negate whether or not it's going to determine whether they're doing it for a people-pleasing reason or is it for the betterment of the team. Let me keep reading. You have to compromise your present comfort for uncertainty of understanding your undetermined future growth. If you don't make the blueprint, don't expect the structure to appear. You got to give up something. There's something that you're comfortable with right now that feels so certain, but it's probably the very thing that you have to give up to get the thing that you actually want. And typically, It's time and comfort. It involves one of the two, and sometimes both. If you don't make the blueprint, don't expect the structure to appear. How many of y'all bought something at IKEA or someplace where you bought furniture that came in a box and you had to assemble it? Imagine if you just had the pieces without the instruction, and then imagine if you just had the instruction without the pieces. You could probably figure one of them out and get some kind of use out of it. It probably won't be exact. And that's probably like trying to assemble the pieces without the instructions. That's a different experience, and it takes a different type of, engineer mindset, I guess, or will to just fix something. But if you got just the instructions, you have, and no resource, you still have just instructions. That's it. So if you don't make a blueprint for what you're trying to accomplish, then you're going to always repeat yourself instead of just making progress. Because if you have a blueprint, there should be measurable progress. There should be metrics, because you have instructions. You have a vantage point. You're not going in blind. You just have to trust the process. But if you don't build a blueprint, if you don't have a blueprint, you don't have a process that's trustworthy. And lastly, we are not a monolithic people. We have different ways to solve the same problem with different logic. Compromise is part of establishing and maintaining healthy boundaries in life. You can't please everybody. That's the true sacrifice. So, that's my interpretation of what a responsible man weighs the cost of when it comes down to compromise, sacrifice, taking care of other people, thinking objectively, being willing to solve problems, have thick skin, and understand that there is a purpose greater than his own. And the only way he would know that is if he was on his purpose. Because when you have a purpose, you live life on purpose. So you have to get up every day intentionally prepared to deal with things that might get you off schedule. And things that might get you off schedule put you in a situation where you may have to compromise. It's inevitable, especially moving forward, because you're trying to get access to a different quality of life, access to a different type of success, and access to a different pool of resources. You have to trade something to gain access. And that is one of the overall points when it comes down to compromise and sacrifice. Are your compromises aligned with your overall goal? Are your feet still pointed in the same direction as the location of your goal? Your compromises will tell you that. Your sacrifices will tell you that. Your outcomes eventually tell you what you compromised and what you sacrificed. Your resume is going to tell you what you compromised and what you sacrificed. And ultimately, those who are impacted by you in a positive or negative way are going to be the people that tell if you were a burden, if your compromises made you a burden, your sacrifices made you a burden, if your compromises and sacrifices were rooted in self-serving reasons. That's going to be easily seen. Yep. So I think I ran my mouth enough for the night. It's a good episode. I figured it was a good hour, and give people a chance to check out the links. Hey man, any of you interested in taking your business mindset to the next level, make sure you click the chat, and see the links, and book me for a consult. Could put your mindset on a way different wavelength and you can get the outcomes that you've been looking for. Because most of it's just information based. Is you one conversation away from really changing, you know what I'm saying, your all of your outcomes. Being one conversation away is is always encouraging because once you start doing something great, other people start showing up to do something great. Once you show up to do something great, other people start showing up to do something great. But if you're always in a situation where you're compromising for a selfish outcome, you're gonna have a tough time keeping people on task with you. Oh, look who we got here. Well, if it isn't the only, one and only Uncle Junior.
What's good, brother? What's good?
What's
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 good?
up, bro?
Man,
Glad you
ain't nothing
came
much,
over, man.
man. And if you was about to roll out, I don't want to hold you up, man, but
No, no, no. Like I was gonna hang on for probably like another 30 minutes anyway. So
that'll
this,
work.
yeah. So like, I just wanted to catch you, some of your thoughts on here. I was, just read my reheated French fries. I'm probably gonna make a slideshow out of it later on, and you know, just running it down. I don't know if you caught that part, but I guess like the conversation, what I'm saying, should a man compromise who he is for anyone or anything? Um, the question that I kind of proposed was like how does a man avoid all of it? Because these are things that are unnecessary and negative thought, but just general walk around, Uncle Junior.
Like, how do
That's
you
something
avoid
that,
compromising?
yeah, because like general walk around Uncle Junior, based on what he does every day, is not going to put himself in a situation where it's going to compromise who he is to the people that he's responsible for.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a do what you're supposed to do type of attitude, and it don't even
Mm-hmm.
require a whole lot. But it's amazing how easily people can get off task. So, like, what do you do to keep your focus? Like, what are some personal things that are code to you?
I think it starts with your values, and I think it starts with your purpose. If you have certain values, those values are what dictate what moves you make in life, what decisions, what choices you make. Your purpose also aligns with what you do with your time. So you combine your values along with your purpose and you mix those things together, you have a recipe for success. You know what I'm saying? So what happens when you're focused on doing the right thing, you're focused on your purpose, then you're not going to get off track as much. You know what I mean? So it's easy to not let distractions and things that compromise your purpose come into your life. Because if I know that I'm heading down the road and something comes over to distract me, because initially that's what compromises. I think in a lot of cases they start with a distraction. And then that distraction, you may dwell on it at some point or something. Next thing you know, you may find yourself compromising, being in a compromising situation. But when those things come along that compromise the situation, you have to ask yourself, does this, whatever it may be, line up with my values? Does it line up with my purpose? And if it don't, then you don't allow yourself to be compromised by it. You avoid it. You stay out, keep it out of your way. And this can be anything. This could be people. This could be relationships with coworkers. It could be a lot of different things that could be um, something that comes into your life that could potentially compromise which direction that you're headed. So for me, it's just staying focused on, who and knowing who I am as a man, knowing what my values are, acting as such, and then staying on my purpose and only keeping what is what aligns with my purpose in my in my um in my window.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I like the fact that you highlighted. Sometimes the situation can be compromised, not the people. You know, like there's been plenty of situations that just been compromised because of elements that's outside of your control.
Yeah,
Like, like how many times you,
deployment,
yeah, come on, man, deployments.
deployments.
How many times you hurry up and wait? Anytime
Hmm.
when you hear hurry up and wait, that's compromise.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like you hurry up, you think you're going somewhere, and then you sit down. You know,
Hmm.
and how many times
Even
you
with the
flown somewhere?
situations,
Yeah,
like you said, the situations, right? The deployments, right? You get with somebody, y'all good, y'all lovey-dovey, a woman, and y'all together for a year, y'all together for 2 years, and all of a sudden, boom, you about to deploy for 15 months. And yes, y'all got together and y'all thought that it was going to be okay, but neither one of you guys have been in that situation before. So you don't know what it's like, you know, being lonely for that amount of time after you have spent 2 years with someone. And those things, if you don't have values and different things like that, that situation can compromise your relationship because, like I said, you may not have ever been in that situation before. And yes, you got with somebody and they knew you was in the military, but you don't know how being apart from somebody is going to affect you and affect your relationship.
yeah. That is a psychological unknown.
Exactly.
It's a huge psychological
Yeah.
unknown because
And how do
just
you and how do you prepare for that?
yeah, because just because you are conditioned to be
Mhm.
okay
Yeah.
doesn't mean like other people are
And
conditioned
you
to be,
might not be okay. It's
and you
just
might
that
not
it's
be
part of
okay.
your job.
Yeah,
It's part of
you
the
might.
way you feed the person that you lay in the bed with every night. That's how
Yeah,
they have a roof over their head,
bro.
and like I said, we may not agree with it, but I think in the military we compromised a lot. Not necessarily ourselves, but I think we did some, but we compromised a lot in general just by being in the military. And some of those things are relationships.
Bro, compromise
But
a lot of
oh
things.
well.
Well, hey, some
Hmm.
somebody got to
Hey,
get sacrificed.
hey, yeah. And maybe it was meant for them to be sacrificed.
Yeah. Hey,
Yeah.
hey, you know what, man? Everybody useful
Yeah. Until they not.
until they not.
Everybody useful until they not.
It's so unfortunately real.
Hmm.
Like it's and that's the point too. Is like at least be useful while you're here. That way, if somebody
Hmm.
sacrifice, you want to achieve sacrifice
Hmm. Yep.
because somebody's got to give something up. Like it has to be an exchange in relative currency. Compromise is inevitable. Like you do it every time you go to the grocery store. Like I don't know
Yeah.
how many times. Look, you want Fiji water,
Yep.
but you're gonna drink this Ozarka. You know what I'm saying?
Or you gonna sacrifice and just pay the extra money for that bacon.
Oh, yeah, something.
You can compromise. You're like, you know what? I really don't want to pay $10 for this bacon, but you know what? Maybe I won't get something else. Maybe I
Man,
won't
look,
get that Kit Kat.
yeah, man, look, you make unhealthy compromises all the time. You know what I'm saying? You ever been to a restaurant that sells both French fries and tater tots? Both of them is unnecessary. You know what I'm saying? But there's a compromise, and then if you got the resources, you don't have to compromise. You can eat both of them.
Yep.
But what's the outcome if you live on that stuff?
Hmm.
Yeah, so we make choices and sacrifices, and I think a lot of times we throw the word sacrifice around too loosely. You know,
Hmm.
I think that it doesn't fit every single box.
Yeah.
It just can't because I think when there's a sacrifice, it has to be comfort and safety. If you ain't compromising, if safety and comfort are not compromised, it's not a sacrifice.
Yeah, and that sacrifice is something. I mean, if it can be easily given up, it's probably not a
It's
sacrifice.
probably not a sacrifice.
You know what I mean? Like if I got $1 million and you ask me for $2, it ain't really a sacrifice.
Right.
If I got $5 and you ask me for two, then that's a sacrifice.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I like that. That's a good way of looking at it right there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because yeah, you want 40% of my money.
Yeah.
when it comes down
40,
to the percentages.
yeah, 40% of my money is different when I got 100 million
Yeah.
than when I got $50
Mm-hmm.
or $100. I got $100. You talking about taking $40, bro? That hit a whole lot harder.
Yeah.
Not, I mean, I'm speaking as somebody who don't have $100 million too.
Yeah.
So
I mean,
I think that if I had $100 million, that I wouldn't want 40 million of mine going away either. You know?
man, money is about equity, man. Like if it's
Yeah.
used to solve problems, there's somebody that's got a $500 problem that's nobody's issue. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Everywhere else, but like that $500 problem might, result in
Bro,
that person being homeless. You know what I'm saying?
bro, you got a car. They need a new transmission, and that's your only one mode of transportation, bro. That's a
That
whole lot
$500,
different.
that's way
That's a whole
different.
lot different than Jay Leno.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
yeah. Well, he
It's a
got
whole
like
lot
a
different than Jay
garage.
Leno breaking down on the highway.
Yeah,
You know what I'm saying?
and
Like,
little cars break it down because he can't drive them all. You know what I'm
yeah,
saying?
because
But
they've
like
been
the only
sitting
one you got,
around.
but the only one you got,
Yeah,
nah, that's different.
yeah. Perspective, compromise.
Man,
Yeah,
you want to plug the show, man? I'm gonna get ready to wrap it up, man. I appreciate you coming over, dropping
yeah,
off
man.
some information. You don't
Yeah,
you come in, and get it done. So I already did most of my mouth running, you
yeah.
know,
Would have came
earlier.
in earlier, man. I had to take care of some stuff. Spend a couple minutes with the wifey real quick. I kind of forgot about this, so I apologize.
No, you ain't gotta apologize, man, because
Yeah.
I like being able to speak at the front part of it for at least the
Mm-hmm.
first
Yeah.
45 minutes, and just wrap it up with just saying some other information to go along with the conversation, man. Because
Yeah, you can clip that.
I've been working on a couple of different things, man. Like it's gonna be in the third book, and one of the things I've been nailing down to better have a conversation about where to go next in the problem solving matrix
Mm-hmm.
is that you got to just talk about behavior.
Mm-hmm.
You can't just talk about people, because when you talk about behavior, you either fit it or you don't.
Yeah.
And behavior always comes with traits, and although those traits are indicators, but although indicators are not absolute, they are absolutely indicators.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just something to pay attention to when it comes down to like.
It's true. I think people get triggered. Like, you could be having a conversation with someone, right? And they talk about a certain situation, right? Hey, so and so's doing this. So and so's, I'm cheating on my husband or something like that, right? Then you want to go and talk about it. Well, you have to like extract that person, I think, sometimes out of the equation, as to whereas, because people get triggered so easy. I mean, honestly, if you come and talk to me like this, I'm giving it to you straight. But I'm just saying in general, when like, 'cause sometimes people will make stuff and sometimes people will say things in the comments, right? Like while we're on air, and we may respond to them. But when we're responding, we are not responding to them. We're responding to the behavior that they may be telling us about. You know what I mean? And I think that that's important because, when you're trying to get your message across to somebody, it's important. I look at, I can look at two different people on a similar platform to have different views. And I can look at one person, and the one person can be very direct. And when they're direct, they could be condescending. They could be what's another word? They could just be mean about it. They're not necessarily thinking about how their message is coming across, and they're not thinking about how their message is going to be received. So inevitably, they may not be able to get their message across to the other person, right?
Yeah.
Whereas someone else may take a different approach and think before they speak, come up with with proper words to say, think about how their message is going to be received, and then speak, because they understand the importance of communication and how communication means crap unless what I'm saying to you can be received. And I think a lot of times people miss that just in communication. And I think that can cause a lot of problems, because like, I think we was on there. We talked about it earlier. You might have jumped off. I might have been just talking about it with Coach. It's kind of like if me and you having a conversation, and I can see it my way, but you can see it your way and my way. Where you can see it two ways, I can only see it one way. So at some point, the conversation is not going to be objective anymore on my side, because I'm only validating and looking at things from my perspective, where you can move the conversation forward because you're looking at it from two different perspectives.
Yep.
And I think that's what causes a lot of stalemates in conversations, is because both people are not open-minded. Both people have to be open-minded in the conversation in order for the conversation to move to the next level. You can't come to a solution if one person is
Inflexible.
inflexible. If one person is just looking at it from their way and they can't look at it from a different point of view, and that's if you are working together as a team. This is not talking about someone who just have a position of authority over you or something like that, and they're just asking for your opinion.
Yeah, I agree with that. That's why, like, um earlier when I was talking about, is it a disagreement that's rooted in a self-serving reason? Is it a compromise that's rooted in a self-serving reason? Are you doing this just because it's a job? You know what I'm saying? Is it a chore? Is it something you're personally connected to? You could tell a difference. You could just tell when somebody's doing something from a passive aggressive way. you know, and you're gonna be able to tell if they are happy with the compromises that they made. They might do it, but and they may not do it willingly, but they'll do it. And even that has its limitations when it's disingenuous. You know what I'm saying? So you got to know who you asking to compromise to, because how many times has somebody asked you, or what I'm saying, I told you to do something, you presented the reasons why there's a better course of action, but for whatever self-serving reason, or whatever reason was the decision was made for you to proceed like you were being told, you were like, okay, and that just left it at that. And then at that point, that means you weren't doing nothing but checking your email. If they don't send it to you, you know what I'm saying? Like, if you're not doing it, you turn off all the implied, you stay within the boundaries, That might get you, you know what I'm saying, whatever result you're looking for, but it's not sustainable in a team effort. Sometimes you're gonna have to do a little bit more.
This question again. Can I hit it again from a different perspective?
Go ahead. Yeah.
All right. So, should a man compromise who he is for anyone or anything? So I'm gonna go with the yes. And here's my positive spin on this. Someone getting up at 4:00 in the morning, a 300-pound person getting up at a 300-pound person waking up at 4:00 in the morning, compromising sleep for something better, for better health, for longevity, for all these different things. So sometimes, we talk about compromise, and sometimes compromise could be a good thing. It's not always negative. Like, you compromising something for something else. And I think that's what, we talked about that earlier. And I think you mentioned it early on here too. It's compromising who you are, because once you lose 300 pounds and you get down to 160 or 170 and you're solid and different things like that, you're a different person.
Yep.
Your values and different things are the same, but you see life from a different point of view. When you walk around, people don't see you as a 300-pound, 5'6" guy. They see you as a 160-pound buff guy now. So even the lens that people look at you is different now. When people look at you, they think differently than, when, I'm just being stereotypical here, but when
Yeah.
people see you eating donuts at 300 pounds, it's different than eating donuts at at 160. You know, when people see people eating donuts at 300 pounds, they're like, man, why he eating that? When people see me at work, they're like, I'm surprised you eat donuts. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So it's like, you know, sometimes when we so I think it is okay to compromise certain things of our life, especially if they're negative, and get them out of our life. And that's, I think, you know, that's what we talked about as far as the evolving process and moving forward is compromising, you know, certain things like sleep, maybe some of your money to learn a course or a trade or a skill or something like that in order to not necessarily become a new person, but kind of evolve into a better version of yourself, you know. And I think that that's a good thing.
yeah. I think the phrase "iron sharpens iron"
Hmm.
is valuable in understanding, and like kind of synchronizing all of that. That what you said. A man has to test himself. He has to be capable of assuming greater responsibility. Because at any given time, a responsible man is going to be in a situation where he's going to get more responsibility on his plate, like both intentional and unintentional. And he has to have a degree of creativity, that gives him the negotiating skills that it takes to compromise in healthy ways, to be able to articulate why you need to go a little bit harder on some things and why you need to step back from others. So the 300-pound guy analogy, what I'm saying, is very useful because um, if no matter what word you choose, that person still has to sacrifice something because it's easy to lay down.
Easy. Yep.
It's easy to stay there. You know what I'm saying? And it's not hard to let that go. So you choosing, what I'm saying, to stay in a space where you don't benefit from it other than just comfort. You know, and I think if you find yourself in a space where comfort is always around, then you're not gonna have, the situational awareness to realize, hey, I've been too comfortable. I got to break out of, what I'm saying, my routine. A lot of people don't have that extra, level of objectivity to say I could be doing better. And then when they don't have it, they don't know where to start. And when you don't know where to start, you're asking for somebody to come lead you. You know what I'm saying? And you either gonna get managed or mentored. Because somebody in a position of, great advantage knows what to do with you, even if you don't know what to do with yourself.
Yep. I don't
So,
doubt that.
yeah, so some people, like compromising. What reasons are you compromising for?
Yeah.
And are you compromising your own opportunities? Because how many times can you compromise your opportunities?
Yeah.
By compromising the wrong thing. You know what I'm saying? So it's if it's true on this end, it's true on another.
Yeah. We compromise time with the boys, compromise time with the family, compromise this and compromise that, compromise, maybe a weekend to go to a retreat to learn about, being a better man. You know what I mean? Compromise, time with your wifey this weekend, but it pays off down the road. So like you said, what are you compromising for? There have to be something of value that you gain from the compromise.
Yeah. Because at that point, you're not allowing yourself, to flourish. Because a lot of people, their lives would change significantly if they just left where they are.
Mm-hmm.
Just went to a different location, do the same process that they got going on right now in a better environment.
So you can move 2 hours away and change your whole life.
Change your whole life.
Yep.
Compromise.
Like right now, like where you at? You just move straight to Austin. Totally different atmosphere.
Completely different atmosphere.
You keep
You know?
going a little bit further and go to San Antonio. Totally different.
Yep. Change zip
You
codes
know?
a couple times, man. You
Yep.
know, you get different outcomes
Yeah.
because you connect with people based on where they are in life, and the closer you get to your outcomes, the harder you're working on them, the more relevant people you're gonna meet that's on your frequency. And if you're doing the things that it takes to get there, you don't have to compromise anything. Let's just say if you did it all for a healthy reason, and you did like for instance what we've been doing with the Uncle Junior Network. Hey man, tune in to the Uncle Junior Network on Wednesdays at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for elevated dialogue, where you will see the Uncle Junior and myself, and along with the other Wolfpack members, as we discuss whatever pressing topics that are relevant to young men and men in general being better. That's just it. So,
Yep. Facts on that.
yeah,
And we learn stuff ourselves too.
Man, sometimes like we have to sit over there, and sometimes we're in the audience.
Bro.
Sometimes we're the audience. I mean, I enjoy it. I like when I can, just ask questions sometimes.
Yeah.
And
I lose track of the show sometimes. I did tonight like twice because I was so tuned in to like the conversation and stuff. So
yeah, that's like that's a great thing though. When you don't have to be the lead on every single thing. You just you know what I'm saying, be in the moment, let the content, develop itself. And again, hey, decentralized leadership. Accountable masculinity rule number 3. Because if you are on the same wavelength, the people that want to see you win, they're gonna give adequate participation. They're gonna give the energy that it requires to see the team goal get met. Because the goal is to win the championship. Let's see what we got right here. Nothing wrong with a man compromising, depending on what it is.
Yeah, absolutely. Depending on what it is, it has to be something of value that's worth compromising for.
Yeah, something of value.
Not compromising for nothing.
Yeah, it has to be something of value. That is the key. I think that sacrificing something of value determines the level of compromise. Because we agree that compromise happens at all times. But I'm always trying to make sure I draw the distinction between compromise and sacrifice, because a lot of people use these words interchangeably and they're not the same thing. You know what I'm saying? Like, there has to be a degree of risk, one for a moral reason and another one for a safety reason.
Or loss.
Yeah, come on. You know what I'm saying? Like,
stand to lose something.
Yeah.
Compromising too. Like just I said with sleep, just getting up early, like you lose sleep. You know what I mean? Just to get up earlier to, get up and go run, sacrifice that time. You may sacrifice that extra hour and a half laying in the bed snuggling with your wifey or something. You know what I mean? It's a little sacrifice, it's a little compromise that, you're willing to do in order to, eventually, maybe, just be at better health overall, to where you can live a little bit longer for your spouse. So,
yeah.
Men compromise all the time.
Man, look, I say, man, like, I feel like most of my life, when I look at it at this stage, man, we done dealt with a lot of disrespect.
Yeah.
A lot of disrespect. Like, disrespect is the language.
You know how many times we done compromised I don't want to say our manhood, but now when you want to just like choke somebody, but you can't.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? It's like to the heart, Like
Yes.
I'm to the heart, I'm the dude that'll choke you,
Yeah.
but I'm compromising who I am because I don't want to go to jail. You know
It's
what
an
I'm
onion,
saying? Yeah,
bro.
I'm compromised who I am. Now I ain't gonna choke nobody, but I'm just saying in general, you know, because you just there are times where we get frustrated, and we're all human, and sometimes we let the anger and our emotions get the best of us, you know, for whatever reason, or people just may come at you a sideways, and you're just like, look, I ain't the dude, I'll choke you,
You
but
don't what you weren't looking for.
yeah, but however, I can't be that person because I would end up compromising a whole lot just by putting the hands on somebody just because my emotions got the best of me. So, um, yeah, I compromise who I am sometimes so
For
I don't go
someone,
to jail for the greater good,
yeah, for
you know,
somebody else's personal safety too.
for other people's personal safety. Yep,
And then the
exactly.
other thing too is that sometimes we afford people the ability to criticize us from a safe place.
Yeah, sure do.
Like,
And they don't even understand it.
yeah, they have no
They
idea.
don't even understand the flexibility that they have sometimes.
They don't.
Mm-mm.
I was on a Facebook post the other day, and like people have this. I'm switching gears, a little bit.
Do it.
It's still on the topic. It said something about women being intimidating to men. Like it's kind of like this cyclic conversation where people are just using words that they don't really understand. You know,
Hmm.
I don't know any men that's intimidated by somebody that can't kill them with their bare hands.
Yeah.
Like, do people really understand what that word means when they say intimidated?
Yeah. Let's take 911 away. Let's take the system away.
Yeah, like Mike
Yeah,
Tyson's intimidating.
that's it. Mike Tyson's intimidating. Yeah. Let's take the system away. Let's see if that lady would still have the same comment. The only reason she can even make that comment is because men have created a world that's safe for her. You know what I mean? Because even still, if 911, so if she called 911, I guarantee you she probably don't want a woman to come. I'm just saying, I don't think she would. I'm thinking if she
Yeah,
calling 911, she prefer to have a man show up at her door.
yeah, yeah. Come on now, she gonna be a
So
saint if you take the 911 away. Yeah, you. Hey,
exactly.
hey,
That's why a lot of women, I'm not trying to make this about women, but that's what because there is 911 and a lot of simp brothers and stuff out there that'll do anything that some of these women tell them to do. Um, the world men have created a space where women feel safe. And I'm
yeah,
not saying that they shouldn't feel safe. It's because of obviously some dudes probably in the past at some point in time who were um who were not being fair or mistreating women. So they had to impact some laws, I'm assuming, to protect women. Which I don't have a problem with that. However, I just don't like it when it's abused. And now you think you can just say what you want to say because you know
ain't no
because you can
consequence.
hit them because there's no consequences. You
Yep.
know what I mean? There's consequences if me and you start running off at the mouth with each other because we ain't
Bro,
gonna call 911. We
bro,
can
we
go
have
out to the back and scrap it out, and it's gonna do what it do. You
man.
know,
Nothing send
and ain't
anybody.
nobody gonna say nothing.
Nothing sends you to jail faster than a unilateral 911 call
Hmm.
because it's automatically not in your favor.
Yeah, I mean, once that call goes up, especially depending on your line of work, like you could be fired. You could lose a security clearance. Like a lot of different things that go into that, especially if you do something false. Like you end up on the front page of the news or the front page of something like that of the nightly news, and then you spend the next 6 months trying to clear your name. but people going to remember what you got accused of, but nobody going to remember the next story 6 months down the road. They talked about how you was exonerated and how someone lied on you.
Yeah, like
Yeah,
the compromise
yeah,
again. You know,
compromise.
to come back to the compromise.
I'm
You
going to
know,
just compromise.
like
Yeah.
that. Like there's a level of objectivity that responsible men have to have that
Mm-hmm.
requires them to be capable of dealing with disrespect,
Mm-hmm.
because disrespect is par for the course.
Mm-hmm. We have to I don't think sometimes, how can I say this? When we're in relationships, how other people, how our lady how our lady carries herself can compromise us.
Man, big deal. Yes.
So if our lady gets to a point to where they're compromising, that's not good.
No.
So that's why, we talk about having conversations early on in relationships. But, just when it comes to men, it's important that, we pick well and choose well and different things like that, because it's important to know that depending on what line of work, your lady could be a liability to you. You know what I
I got an
mean?
example.
You could end up compromising something that you really don't want to.
I got an example.
Mm-hmm.
Blueface and Krishan.
Yeah.
Like,
but he's dealing with it, so I mean,
there goes a whole lot of other rabbit hole conversations.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying, that go with that. And one of the ones that I've been writing down is the acronym SUDDEN, SUDDEN, and I'm gonna tie this to the ongoing discussion, right? I'm gonna drop this right here, and I don't know if you had a chance to read it before when I posted it, but check this out. What do you glean from that right away?
That while men are out dating, or anybody, you're out dating and you're being undisciplined, a lot of times, especially if you're being undisciplined sexually, then things can end up in a negative way for you. It can change your life, very life altering. Like, sexually undisciplined leads to babies. It leads to hurt feelings. It leads to I won't say unwanted babies and wanted babies.
Unplanned.
Yep. Yeah, it leads to diseases. It leads to, like I said, hurt. It leads to pain. It leads to a lot of different things,
Yeah. I think when you talk about like compromise, sacrifice, the responsible man, the spirit of accountable masculinity, or the philosophy of it, and then us talking about how we process disrespect, how we have to be, we have to be like rooted in stoicism. Like, we always have to have a poker face. And then when you think about the things that gets a man in a situation, or anybody in that situation, that gets them in a compromising position, generally it comes from making sudden decisions.
Yeah.
Sexually undisciplined dating decisions that end negatively. When you think about, like, when we was in a unit, anytime there was a situation where there was a senior NCO involved with a junior soldier, and it impacted the unit in a negative way, come on, man. Yeah. It was the same thing every time, because, like, people not coming to work to hurt each other. You know what I'm saying? You're not bringing, like, what's going on in the civilian sector onto a military installation, because there's a certain way you have to conduct yourself. Tact is necessary. Even if you got a problem with somebody, the overall team goal is to put your personal issue to the side and complete the mission. Well, one thing that you can't neutralize, no matter what type of environment you got, is the sexually undisciplined decision makers. Decisions that are made by individuals. The difference is, what are they willing to compromise, and what are they willing to sacrifice, and what gets sacrificed because of that compromise? Because even in the dictionary, compromise comes before sacrifice. So no matter which end of it you're looking at it from, eventually there will be a sacrifice. And if you're doing something that undermines the overall morale of people that you're working with, eventually it's going to come back to you that you compromised your position. You know what I'm saying? That you created the situation, you made the situation about you. And generally speaking, those come from sexually undisciplined dating decisions that end negatively. Just like all the other things you pointed out, to add on to it, that you could just infer from the acronym itself. So, most of our situations are self-inflicted. And until
you are the common denominator in all our problems,
whatever you
all our issues, all our bad relationships, everything. We're the common denominator in everything.
Mm-hmm. Yep. We manifest that in our behavior, which is why like I talk about behavior so much, because we can't solve the problem. We can't neutralize it. We can't come up with a common foundation to speak on. At that point, we're just talking. So, man, we covered a lot. I'm going to expand on this sudden topic at some point. I just wanted people to see it. Something that's definitely going to come up in the third book, and the Code of Accountable Masculinity. I think I'm gonna drop it in October, because I wanted to push for maybe sometime this summer, but no, it'll be on the 5-year anniversary of the original installment.
Mm-hmm.
Code. Y'all go get it. The links are in the chat. Hit the super chat and go ahead and show your monetary support for the platform, since it is monetized. Hey, Uncle Junior, I appreciate you for stopping by. You came through last week and dropped off a little bit of money in the collection plate, because it couldn't be up there, but I appreciated it. Everybody else that's watching, make sure you tune into the Uncle Junior Network. Subscribe and like the channel for both Code Talk and Elevated Dialogue. Elevated Dialogue every Wednesday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Code Talk right after that at 8 p.m. Central Standard Time. The other was Eastern Standard Time and Central. So, yeah, that's it, man. Appreciate y'all for coming by, and catch you again next week.